Things are picking up fast on the Kevin Durant front for the San Antonio Spurs as something Bill Simmons just recently said on his show shed some new light and puts a new twist on this Kevin Durant situation as the Spurs are looking to improve the team this offseason. It's not just what Bill Simmons had to say. The betting odds, the new betting odds after this weekend have taken a dramatic shift, and finally one report from Evan Siddery reveals that one player that was not previously mentioned in many Kevin Durant trade rumors is likely a front runner to be moved out. We got to break down a lot of new Kevin Durant reports, a bunch of stuff coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. And you know what? We're not going to beat around the bush. We're just going to get straight into it here. And I just wanted to start with something a bit funny. Now, I'm sure you guys have all seen this. I just wanted to bring this up because we were chatting about it today. Me, Brian, and Keenan, and just thought it was funny. Stephen A, I feel like he did this. He left the Spurs off of KD's list, his list for KD just to get us talking about it. And you know what? Guess what? I'm falling for the bait. Stephen A, I don't like this. I think it's just kind of hilarious the Spurs are not here, but hey, make that what you will. But look, the Spurs are kind of all over this talk for Kevin Durant as the recent odds as of 20 minutes before recording this video, probably a lot longer by the time you're watching this, but not too long ago, the updated odds via DraftKings Sportsbook on where Kevin Durant will play next season. The Spurs and Rockets were pretty much neck and neck last week, with the Spurs being the slight favorites, and after the weekend, a heavy shift. The Spurs are now the favorites by a very decent margin. While it is definitely a Texas team, Spurs and Rockets, who are the two front runners, the Spurs have taken the big leap. And when draft odds shift like this, it tends to mean that there's some inside information, or it tends to mean a lot more people are betting on the Spurs. And with all the news coming out last week, with rumors coming out of Phoenix saying that Kevin Durant has been talking to his camp, and them all mentioning the San Antonio Spurs as one of these likely landing spots, some people going as far as to say that he may be forcing his way to this team. I don't think that's really the case, but isn't it crazy that if that is the case, we kind of have two guys that are really saying, try and get me to the Spurs, and De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Durant. Really, really crazy that it's the Wemby effect, it's the future effect, it's awesome. But yeah, right now, overwhelming favorites, I think, is an understatement coming from Evan Siddery here, and the San Antonio Spurs are making a name for themselves, and that's where all these rumors and stuff are coming out from. Now, before I get to what Bill Simmons said, in case you haven't seen it yet, but we got a lot to discuss on that front as well, I want to talk about something else that Siddery tweeted out, and I wanted to discuss this with you guys because I don't know if I like this. He said, in a potential Kevin Durant trade involving the Spurs, Jeremy Sochan will be a player to monitor. Sochan, who's extension eligible, could be an intriguing piece for the Suns to prioritize. A framework of Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and Sochan for Durant works for both teams. Now, yeah, it does, right? And in terms of money, Jeremy Sochan makes up that extra money because Devin Vassell is, 27 million, Harrison Barnes, I think 18, something like that. And then you throw in Sochan, and it just ends up balancing out a bit better on the Kevin Durant front. Now, there could be some other names. I've seen Malachi Branham's name being thrown around, though he's making a bit less. Regardless, we know that Jeremy Sochan, I'd like to see him stay a Spur for a long time. He had a really good year. Again, some back troubles here and there, and that's something to monitor for sure, but he is due for an extension this offseason. Now, it doesn't have to be signed this offseason because he is under contract for next year, if you guys didn't know, but the thing is, you can sign this extension this summer so that it kicks in after next season. And I think I speak for most Spurs fans, if not all of us, that I would love to see Jeremy Sochan work alongside Victor Wembanyama for as long as they can. I think it's a very good fit, especially with Sochan improving his three-point shooting. Is he ever going to be a point of attack offensive player? No. But when we're talking about a trade package for Durant, like I said before, we were hearing Vassell, Barnes, and the 14th pick. Now, what would you rather move? Vassell, Barnes, and the 14th pick, or Vassell, Barnes, and Sochan? That's where it gets maybe a little more interesting. The way I see it here is that, look, Sochan was drafted higher than the 14th pick, of course, and I like to think of it this way. Yes, you could get superstars at the number 14 pick. It's happened in NBA history, but you're more likely to get a guy that's almost certainly going to have less production than Sochan at this stage in his career, right? Just statistically, right? They might end up being a great player, but Sochan, for what he brings, especially on defense, I don't know. I would prefer to see the 14th pick go away and keep the guy in Sochan, who is a known commodity, who we know what he will bring us. We don't know if he'll sign a team-friendly extension, but an extension for him is not going to break the bank. And I know the Spurs, do I have the payroll here? I don't think I have it. No, I don't. But those are just some kind of Malawach stats that we brought up last video. But Sochan, to me, is not a piece I would like to part with. But I need to hear from you guys because if it's for Kevin Durant, it starts to get a little more palatable. But if we're getting rid of both Vassell and Sochan in this deal, plus Harrison Barnes, it's I don't know. I think I'd just rather the 14th pick because it's less of a known commodity and it doesn't hurt the team as much in the immediate short term, right? You give up 3 roster players for 1 guaranteed year of Kevin Durant. It hurts your team a lot more heading into next season, especially the depth. So let me know your thoughts. I don't want that to happen. If we're talking Barnes Vassell in the 14th, I'm fine with that. But look, time to just straight up get into what Bill Simmons had to say here. Now, I will preface this by saying he quite literally said, hey, don't aggregate this. I have no inside sources. Well, Bill, look, not aggregating, not saying you do have inside sources, but I want to talk about it because I think, Bill Simmons, he says a lot of things, but he does know a lot of things. And I want to talk about this with you because I think it's a very, very fun quote to talk about. He straight up said, I wouldn't be surprised if KD to the Spurs is done already and they just haven't announced it. Basically, they've agreed on specifics, just announce it on the week of the draft. And I honestly, I hadn't really thought of this, but I think this could very well be a possibility. I mean, we're talking, Phoenix and San Antonio. The ideal world here is that this does get done before the draft because you don't, or at least at the draft, right? If you're trading the 14th pick to Phoenix, then they're going to want to know they have full control over that. Now, lots and lots of times on the draft floor, picks will be traded. We used to see the Woj tweets. Now we'll see the Shams tweets saying oh, they're drafting on behalf of blah, 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 right? The Kawhi Leonard pick even, for example. Sorry to bring that name up. But, when we're talking about Bill Simmons here, I wouldn't be surprised either. Now, again, Phoenix, they want to get this done while they can, while the value is high for Kevin Durant. It's not going to change much over the course of the summer, but getting it done before the draft, again, opens up some flexibility. It gives you a more certain financial situation as you head into free agency in early July, and the draft there being at the end of June. If you don't get it done before the draft, you risk going into free agency with a bunch of this stuff. There's a lot more question marks that get raised there because, again, then Sochan's extension eligible. Maybe you want Phoenix wants control over that. All these little aspects. It would not shock me either. I think it's very interesting. He also went on to say this goes back to the Giannis thing. I think they trade for KD because it just costs less. They'll be able to be a real competitive team and maybe go a couple of rounds in the playoffs, but they're also going to keep the number 2 pick and do it that way, which is my prediction. And I'll be honest, Bill, if anyone's been watching the show, maybe he's been watching the... No, he hasn't been watching the show. Would be really cool, though, if he did. Really like Bill Simmons. A lot of what he says. But, that's been my prediction. Hashtag draft Dylan Harper. Team draft Dylan Harper. That's what I want, right? Dylan Harper coming in as the backup. You got De'Aaron Fox. You got Stephon Castle. And, I've been saying for ages, right? KD... for the right package is fine. It's just that for so long now, we've been hearing packages that are just a bit too out there, not good enough for KD. If we're talking this Sittery trade here that involves Vassell, Sochan, and Barnes, I begin to become less convinced. I mean, the only way I think I'd consider this is if Kevin Durant has a little handshake under the table deal that says, look, I'm going to extend for 2 years after, provided I'm still a good player at the end of this year, which he should be, at a reduced salary. And that to me is a lot to ask of Kevin Durant. So, for 1 year of KD, giving up 2 young players, Vassell, who I'm almost willing to guarantee he'll get back to his near 20 point per game form and his efficiency will go up. Sochan is going to be, in my opinion, an all defensive player a couple times in his career. Giving that kind of stuff up for 1 year of KD in a year where, again, you're sacrificing depth. The roster is probably not ready to go win a championship. I don't love that, but I need to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Do you agree with Bill Simmons, what he said, that this trade could just be done already, kind of under the table, and they're just waiting to announce it later and later? I feel like we might be hearing some stuff, but hey, these sports books, they don't just change for nothing. I mean, people are betting on the Spurs more and more and more and more, and it's quite a decent indicator, at least when there's a lot of info out there of what's going down. Or maybe you disagree with Bill Simmons. What do you think about Sochan? There's a lot of stuff from this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, but that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. We got a lot more great stuff coming. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.